Hey guys, it's Sarah here. Alright, so this theory I've heard around in the corners of the Game of Thrones theory world, so I wanted to bring it to the attention of people who may not have heard about it before. I added a bit of my own ideas as well. So before you start getting upset and telling me that George R.R. Martin already said that the Ice Dragon short story he wrote and the Song of Ice and Fires are not connected, hear me out because while they're not technically connected, I still think it's possible that there are parts of A Song of Ice and Fire that could have been inspired by events that happened in the Ice Dragon. So I just want to talk about some of the similarities between the two stories. Alright, so first off, I'm going to give you a brief overview of what happens in George R.R. Martin's The Ice Dragon, which he wrote as a short story in the 1980s. I'm just going to tell you everything that happens. So basically, there's this young girl named Adara who was born during a long winter, and she is described as being touched by the cold. She has pale skin, blue eyes, is cold to the touch, and she has, no emotions. Or people think she has no emotions, but she keeps them pretty well hidden. Her mother died during childbirth, which puts a strain on her relationship with her father. Adara is mostly a loner and isn't really bothered by the cold as much as her siblings. And she can even touch the ice lizards, which are creatures that live around her house, without melting them when everyone else that tries to touch them melts them. As a young girl, she's visited by an ice dragon, which in the story we hear are basically untamable and unrideable, but she manages to build a relationship with this dragon and she manages to ride it. There's a war happening in the north between the king's men and his dragon riders and an enemy army who also possesses dragons, but they actually have more dragons. So this war is going really badly for Adara's kingdom, and the people need to flee, but Adara's family chooses to stay. She tries to escape on the ice dragon despite it being spring and knowing that this dragon could die, but she instead asks the dragon to turn around and help her family. So the ice dragon freezes the enemy dragons to death, but after the whole ordeal, the only thing left of the ice dragon is a cold pool of water. So Adara and her family move away. They decide to move now, and she becomes a warm child, and everyone's happy. It's kind of like a sad, weird, not sure what to think of ending, but that's what it is. It is what it is. So the theory here is that there is a connection between Adara's home and the Ice Dragon and Winterfell in A Song of Ice and Fire. And yes, it's not a literal connection because George R.R. Martin said they're not the same world, but I'm just saying that there's similarities. So the pool in the Godswood is described as being still and very cold. And this is odd because we know that Winterfell was built atop hot springs, and most of the pools in and around Winterfell are warm. So a lot of people think that it's possible that in the World of Ice and Fire history that an ice dragon actually died there. Also, Winterfell would be well named if it was the place where the embodiment of winter, i.e. an ice dragon, literally fell. Adara said that the dragon brought cold, or the cold brought the dragon, and she couldn't quite tell which way it was. So this could definitely have a strong connection with winter. I can't think of a logical reason for the name of Winterfell in A Song of Ice and Fire, unless you want to connect it to the Night's King. I guess you could do that too. But I think it could very possibly be an ice dragon way back in history. So there are some other similarities between the two stories that could indicate that George R.R. Martin used aspects of the world he created in The Ice Dragon to inspire his world of Westeros in A Song of Ice and Fire. Just because George R.R. Martin wrote The Ice Dragon in 1980 before A Song of Ice and Fire doesn't mean he couldn't have been inspired by those events as an Easter egg or his own tidbit of interest in his new stories. I know he uses themes and names in multiple of his sci-fi stories over and over again, so it's not out of the realms of possibility. So other similarities include dragons, of course, a king's army of dragons, which the Targaryens had, an inn at the crossroads, a land of always winter, summers and winters of indeterminate length, and a fight between fire and ice magic. Now, there's also a lady named Old Laura, who was the oldest woman in the village, and she seemed to know of the things that happened long ago, and she liked to tell stories like Old Nan did in Winterfell in The Song of Ice and Fire. But if we wanted to push on and believe that they could be in the same universe, despite what George R.R. Martin said, there are some other cool things that we can think about. I mean, we know the ice dragons exist or have existed in the World of Ice and Fire, but we've yet to see one. So dragons from the north in the Ice Dragon could be connected to the round planet theory that is growing in popularity. So just briefly, a lot of people think that the Shadowlands beyond Ashai connect with the northern lands beyond Westeros, and that's why Quaithe tells Dany she needs to go east to go west. But this is also an interesting theory because we know that on this planet, of Westeros, like where Westeros is, there is Southros, Westeros, Essos, but we don't know anything about if there's like a northern continent, like Northos or Northios or whatever you want to call it. But expect that it would exist, probably. No one knows much about what's east of Asshai except the Cold Waste and Shadowlands, so it's possible that they connect. So in the Ice Dragon, the dragons that came from the north could have been a dragon army from somewhere past Asshai that is now covered in shadow, if it's the same world. I mean, I know it's tinfoil, but it'd be really cool to think about all these different dragon armies and everything that might have happened before A Song of World and Ice and Fire, if they were in fact the two same world. Especially since we have so many tidbits of evidence that there are still dragons in the Shadowlands past Asshai. So I realize that obviously it's unlikely that they're connected at all, but you can't deny that there are similarities between the two stories and the worlds they take place in, especially the Land of Always Winter. That's the one that gets me for sure. And in the Ice Dragon, the world, or the Land of Always Winter, has these really crazy castles and stuff made of ice. I think it'd be so cool if we got to see that in Song of Ice and Fire, where the White Walkers are chilling. But I mean, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if we get Easter eggs from George R.R. Martin's previous works in his newer works. I think authors do that a lot, and George R.R. Martin likes to reuse themes a lot. So I think that even though George R.R. Martin has confirmed that they're not the same world, I think it's really, really interesting to see the similarities between the Ice Dragon and the Song of Ice and Fire. I've added some links to related threads in the description if you want to check out where I got some of these ideas from. I hope you like this theory. I'm open to theory requests, and thanks so much for watching.